And as we practice arriving right here in this body, in this moment, sensing the whole body breathing, sensing the feet grounded, and we might even imagine breathing through the soles of the feet, all the way up the body, all the way through the crown of the head. And on the exhalation, sensing the breath returning all the way down through the body, washing anything that is no longer needed all the way back down into the earth. Breathing from the soles of the feet all the way up and through the body and gathering any stress, any burdens, bringing them to mind, and then letting them wash through the body all the way down into the earth. Our Mother Earth is here to hold us and to hold all that we carry. So that we need not carry things alone. Watching the breath come and go. And notice the physicality of the breath, the sensations of the breath entering through the nostrils, noticing the temperature, noticing any brightness in the mind, a brightening through the sinuses, watching the breath as it moves down the throat into the upper lobes of the lungs, the middle lobes, and the lower lobes of the lungs. And we might even notice the breath moving all the way down deep in the belly, the effects of the breath all the way down into the pelvis. The whole body breathing. And just as the earth can hold all that we give to it, and our Sangha can hold all that we share with each other, our breath can also hold all that is arising. The deepest sorrow, the angriest rage, the overwhelming and paralyzing fears, and everything else can be held by this breath. And there's a Tonglen practice. It's a very ancient practice that I learned quite some time ago. And it's one that I often forget. And when I remember, it can be a very useful dimension of practice. And so I invite us to practice Tonglen, a variation. We can begin by simply bringing our own suffering, our own struggle that's arising now in this moment as we live in these turbulent and unpredictable times, and sense how we are touched by the way that our mind interprets these events, the way that we see others impacted by these events. And as we touch into our own struggle, our own suffering, the Buddha has taught us that there is suffering for all humans. To be human is to suffer, and that there's a path out of suffering. And the first step is to acknowledge our humanness. To acknowledge that, yes, of course, we are suffering now. And when we realize that, it's no surprise, because that's what happens to all of us humans. There is pain and there is suffering. And we can give our own individual suffering and drop it into the sea, the great ocean of humanity. We can drop it into the darkness and the depths of suffering. And with breath awareness, we can breathe in. We can breathe into ourselves and into our capacities to hold the darkness and the depths of all the suffering. Like Kuan Yin, the archetypal goddess image of being able to hold all the suffering in the world, all the sorrows, all the tears, in the heart of compassion. Breathing in with each inhalation, breathing with the emotions that are arising, the feeling tone in the body that may be unpleasant with challenging emotions. And breathing our suffering, our struggles that are now held in the ocean of all humanity's struggles and suffering. Each wave and expression, and breathe it into the heart of compassion. So that as we breathe out a lightness, a radiance, a hopefulness. The practice of Tonglen is to transform suffering into greater freedom. Breathing in the pain, the sorrow, the frustrations, the fears into our own hearts, and all the pain and suffering on the planet into this heart of compassion that holds everything with unconditional love. And each exhalation, a letting go and a breathing out, a light, a brilliance, and a hopefulness. Sophie Blackall once said, "There is always something bright on the horizon, even if we have to squint to see it, even if we have to create it ourselves." Practicing Tonglen. And we might even imagine that we're practicing as we practice together in Sangha, that we're practicing throughout history, all the ancients who have come before us who have practiced Tonglen. Breathing in with awareness, whatever we hold as heavy in our hearts, fiery, burdensome, dark. And we recognize that, yes, this is here. It is part of our humanity. And to swim in the waters with each inhalation into the depths, into the darkness where we cannot see. And each exhalation like a coming back up to the surface, and perhaps needing to squint because the light is so bright. We can continue to practice Tonglen, or to let the practice fall behind us and simply bring awareness to the breath. Awareness to the space around, in our own places, our own dwellings. And inviting an awareness into the spaciousness beyond the walls, out into infinite space, into that space of spaciousness of the compassionate heart that knows no bounds. Where we can stay with the Tonglen practice. And each time we notice that the mind has wandered into the future, into our to-do lists, into what's not quite here yet, can just bring ourselves back, practicing the practice of steadying the mind, returning again to this moment. Bringing awareness to the breath and noticing what is an awareness. Where does the breath take us? And in the words of Vivek Murthy, what can we do in our lives through the decisions we make, the choices we make, to tip the scales in the world away from fear and towards love? What can we do in our lives through the decisions we make, the choices we make, to tip the scales in the world away from fear and towards love? And so we'll segue in our practice to some metta, some loving kindness. And if you wish, perhaps bringing a hand to the center of the chest and feeling the hand as a gesture of kindness and tenderness towards the heart. And we can bring into mind someone we know, someone dear to our hearts that is suffering right now. And hold them in a space of compassion and love. May you be healthy and strong. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of all suffering. May you be at peace. And offering any other metta to this loved one. And letting this loved one go from our attention and bringing in a greater challenge to call in to someone we know, someone who challenges us, who gets under our skin, someone who may be like a thorn in our side. And from the compassionate heart, can we also offer metta, loving kindness, as all beings suffer? May you be healthy and strong. May you be free of suffering. May you be safe from all harm. May you be at peace. And offering any other metta to this one who is challenging to be with, and perhaps even challenging to offer metta to. And letting this one go. And bringing in one more. Ourselves. Bringing ourselves into this heart of boundless compassion for all the suffering that we hold in our hearts at this time. Offering ourselves metta. May I be healthy and strong. May I be free of suffering. May I be safe from all harm. May I be at peace. And offering yourself any other metta. And offering metta to all beings everywhere. All beings. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be safe from harm. May all beings be at peace. And offering all beings everywhere any other metta. And sending all this metta out on the out breath into the world as a light, as a radiant light of hope, so that we can tip the scales of fear. And so we can see the hope that does exist, even if we have to squint to see it. Bringing our hands together as we end our practice, bowing to our hearts with gratitude for showing up, for remaining devoted to the practice of awakening, and bowing to each other in Sangha. Namaste.